Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have a little bit of a special review because this one is going to sign off on this particular cycle of Scottish and English beer reviews for the second time in this trip home actually. So yeah, I'm going to fly to Stockholm tomorrow. Fingers crossed I don't get denied boarding on my flight this time, and hopefully that means that tomorrow, channel time, you will be seeing some more Swedish and Danish and other reviews coming up on the channel. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of mini-series, if you like, of Scottish and English stuff. I've really enjoyed kind of catching up with the beers here in Scotland, as well as trying a few really good ones from down in England as well actually. So I've enjoyed filming this one. I hope that you guys have enjoyed watching it. So for this review then, we are going to sign off on this mini-series with a Scottish brewery once again. I've reviewed a good number of beers from these guys now, and if memory serves me correctly, this will be review number 12 or so that I've done from this brewery actually. So for this one then, we will head through to Edinburgh, although we can say Dundee for this brewery as well, because that's where they're mainly brewing their stuff now, and we're going to return to the wonderful Vault City Brewing. So this particular beer is called the Coffee and Bramble Sour. It comes in at 7.4% ABV, and I think this one should be really quite interesting. I don't think I need to tell you exactly what kind of beer this one is, but yeah, I've had some really good beers from Vault City Brewing this time when I've been home. I think I've reviewed 8 beers from them actually this time when we've been back, so yeah, that's been quite fun actually. But yeah, really curious to see how this one turns out. This was one that I heard about quite a few months ago, and I think I was pretty lucky to be able to get a hold of a bottle of this one. So yeah, this I think should be a very interesting review. As you'll know if you've watched the channel for any length of time now, I'm a huge fan of coffee stouts, and then when I saw a Coffee and Bramble Sour, I thought that's just something really quirky that we have to get reviewed on the channel. And you know, as I say, I've been very impressed with the stuff that I've had from Vault City Brewing so far, so I thought, why not? I bought this beer from the House of Trembling Madness down in York, an awesome shop if you can get there physically, and otherwise they have a really great online store there, which is one of the best value bottle shops that you're going to find online in England actually, according to the English beer tubers. So yeah, definitely nice to return to these guys, and I think this is a really kind of fitting way to sign off of this particular cycle of Scottish and English beer reviews, like I said. But this one comes in at 7.4% ABV, basically a coffee and blackberry sour this, so it should be very quirky and very interesting, and that's what we've come to know from Vault City Brewing, of course. So yeah, looking forward to this one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So let's go for it then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Vault City Brewing before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite often at the moment because I have been enjoying a little bit of time at home in the motherland of Scotland, and otherwise I just add to it when I can. The Scottish beers, of course, are not as widely available as their English counterparts, but you know, it's always a treat, as I say, when we come back home. But as always, if you have any beer recommendations and things like that, just get in touch and let me know those. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Vault City Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So Vault City Brewing, as I've told you numerous times before, are originally based in Edinburgh, but these days brewing up in Dundee, and they were founded back in 2018 by Johnny Horn, Adele Wilkie and Stephen Smith-Hay. So Johnny worked at the Hanging Bat Brew Pub in Edinburgh on Lothian Road, definitely a place I would recommend you check out if you get the chance, but Stephen and Adele were regular customers, and just over time they became quite close friends. But Johnny was studying at the time, but he was also an avid home brewer, as was Stephen, and this was a big part of the basis of their friendship. But the two began planning a brewery together, and then in the early stages, Adele contributed a lot of the ideas before kind of joining them properly on the project. But Johnny was a great fan of the Belgian lambics and sours, and this really rubbed off on Adele and Stephen. But they felt at the time they were planning the brewery, this was a real gap in the Scottish beer scene. There was no brewery really kind of focusing on sour beers and stuff like this, but they decided that this was the route they were going to take. And it's gone very well for them, needless to say. But initially they didn't think so much about making money, and so they set up a glorified home brewing kit as their main brewery in Stephen and Adele's kitchen, and and they began brewing weekly back in July of 2018. But over the last kind of year or two, they've been kind of travelling around Europe, attending different beer festivals and just getting their name out there a little bit more. They've been very successful in doing that. I first encountered these guys at the Brewskival festival in Helsingborg back over in Skåne in Sweden, and unfortunately when I discovered that this brewery was there, they'd sold out of all their beers. So yeah, unfortunately I never got to try Vault City the first time I encountered them. But yeah, as of January 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 70 different types of beer, and they're brewing all of their stuff at 71 Brewing up in Dundee. But the brewery takes its name from the Edinburgh or Southside vaults, which are built into the arches of the Southside Bridge in the old town in Edinburgh, and these used to be home to like taverns, cobblers, workmen, and all of these kind of things actually. So yeah, they wanted to have a kind of classic Edinburgh name for the brewery, and they certainly have that with the name Vault City. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Vault City Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that this brewery have done. Another interesting thing to point out is that if you order over £25 from this brewery, you will get free delivery throughout Scotland, and I think they do that down into England and Wales as well. I'm not sure about Northern Ireland or the Republic, but you can order internationally from the brewery with Vault City actually, so I would highly recommend that you have a look at that actually. It's a very good deal that you get from these guys. Quite a few of the beers that I reviewed from Vault City this time came directly from the brewery. But yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. That is your history section for this time. But yeah, as I said earlier on, this beer comes in at 7.4% ABV. I'll just like have a little look at the artwork before we open it up. There you can see the kind of typical Vault City Brewing artwork. That's also on the bottle cap as well, which is very nice, and it tells you a little bit about the beer on the side here. So it says coffee and bramble sour. Brambles are the Scottish word for blackberries, a flavour we've celebrated in past releases. This time we've paired them with our favourite morning tipple, the humble coffee bean. An ambitious pairing, we think that the coffee and bramble work like a dream. Chocolatey bitterness and roastiness from Brazilian coffee beans meld with the tannic and sweet tang of the bramble. Bringing our sour base beer into the mix, this complex indulgent beer is as tasty as it is unique. So yeah, this is pretty cool. But I know that Vault City do have a few Imperial Stouts as well, and I wanted to try and get a hold of one of those this time, but unfortunately that wasn't to be. But as I say, I've managed to try a few really nice ones from them this time, but there are a couple that I really want to get on the channel. The Cheeky Vimto, the Ribena Sour, and I think there was, I forget what the other one was, but you know, we've had the OG IPA, we've had the Sour IPA version 3, we had the Yuzu Galaxy, the Strawberry Skies, we've had some really nice beers from them this time, I have to say. The OG IPA was interesting as well. Tabury Sour I really enjoyed actually. But yeah, 7.4% this one, coffee beans and brambles added into the brew. So yeah, 375ml bottle this. I think this cost me like £7 or something, so to translate that into other currencies, maybe about €8, €8.25, something like that, maybe about $9 American, and probably in Swedish krona that's about 80 or 85 kroners, something like that. But yeah, let's get this guy out then and we will get on with the tasting. Very curious to see what this one has in store for us. So yeah, there we go. Yes, okay then, okay. So let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting then. I think this should be very nice. Oh geez, look at the colour of this. I have to say I didn't expect that from it. I did not expect it to be this colour. But yeah, the thing about coffee beans, as I've told you in previous reviews, coffee beans are one of my favourite adjuncts to put into beer because they're, you know, pretty much as complex as some of the different hops that you're going to come across. So yeah, I think that is pretty interesting. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, when it comes to coffee beans are, I would say, you know, it's the thing with coffee beans is that there's quite a lot of different variables that can affect how they come across. So you know, different soil compositions and different mineral compositions and water from different parts of the world, that's going to play a role. But the main factor when it comes to your coffee beans is the MESL, the meters above sea level. So apparently the higher altitude at which you grow your coffee, the more kind of floral and aromatic and fruity flavours and stuff like this you get. So you know, Colombian coffee and Brazilian coffee and things are going to taste different based on the altitude altitude. You've got the Ethiopian and Kenyan coffees and stuff like this. Actually, Rwandan coffee as well is quite a popular thing. But yeah, I think you also get Indonesian coffee, and I don't know if you get Malaysian stuff as well. So yeah, coffees from all over the world taste quite different actually, and that's one of the main reasons why I love trying lots of different coffee stouts and stuff. But this is definitely the first coffee sour we've had on the channel. But as you could see when we poured the beer, it poured with about a half finger of a kind of pink tinted bumpy white head. That's just faded away to be kind of pretty much nothing. But the colour of this beer, I have to say, is pretty fantastic actually. I mean, just look at that. It's a lovely, very rich, kind of almost cherry colour actually, like a candy apple red or something like that. Yeah, that is pretty damn impressive, I have to say. It does have a good level of haze to it. This one has wheat and oats in it, which is actually very common for the Vault City beers. And one thing I've been mentioning in quite a few of these reviews recently, I was talking to the other beer tubers about this recently actually. The thing that I really like about Vault City, and one of the things that I think that really stands them in good stead, is that they still use hops in their beer. Quite a few of the sour breweries that I've encountered in Sweden don't use hops, and I think that just takes away a little bit of depth from the beer, to be honest with you. It just, you know, adding a little bit of hop in there just gives the beer a little bit more. But as you can see, the colour of this beer is absolutely lovely. If I put my fingers behind the glass, it's got a, you know, a lovely degree of haze to it, and I think that works out very, very nicely. So yeah, this beer does look pretty damn impressive, I have to say. So yeah, just did not expect such a kind of rich, kind of candy apple red from this one. It's maybe a little bit darker than that. It's maybe a cherry colour. Like a bright kind of cherry colour is a good way to describe this one as well. But yeah, certainly an interesting appearance to this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and just a few little ones making their way up towards the bottom of the head there. And the head, incidentally, is just, you know, a little ring around the edge of the glass and a little tuft of just a little tuft of bubbles, kind of sitting there on the top, on the underside of the glass, but or in the middle of the head there. But yeah, looks very, very nice, this one. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one. I think this is going to be a really interesting and quirky beer for sure. Ooh, right. Straight away with this one, the coffee actually comes out, and it strikes me as a very dry coffee actually. Very dry, very earthy. Almost, it's very pungent though in its earthiness. That's the thing. Yeah. That's really strange. It's got quite a, it's like a pungent, charred, woody kind of quality you get out of the coffee in this beer. It's almost a little bit like spicy. It almost comes across as like some of these barbecue sauces in some way. That's the first thing that comes to mind about this actually. That coffee bean really has this almost kind of like hot sauce. Yeah, the hot sauce is more accurate. That kind of hot sauce, chili sauce kind of thing. That's really unusual. I did not expect that out of this beer. So yeah, when you smell this one, the coffee is so pungent, but it's really, like, underneath, once your nose adjusts to that, it has this really powerful kind of chili, almost like just chili sauce kind of thing coming out of it. I did not expect that in the slightest. But underneath that, the coffee has quite a pungent earthiness to it. There's a wee bit of a kind of aromaticity to the coffee as well. And are we getting any fruitiness out of it? I mean, there's maybe a very sharp kind of red fruity character to it, like a raisiny note, but the coffee in that really, it's got this almost kind of hot saucy type vibe to it. That's really, really unusual. And obviously it's not hot sauce, but that's the first thing that comes to mind when I smell this thing. Jeez, did not expect that at all. And I think this is going to be one of these beers where it's got, you know, you do get some beers that are just really weird in the aroma, but then in the flavour they just come together and click like that. So I've got a feeling that that's maybe what's going to happen with this one, because I have heard positive things about this beer. Absolutely. But yeah, the coffee's got a hell of an aromaticity to it. It's got a hell of a pungency from the earthiness, and there is a good little bit of a kind of sharper fruity character out of this one as well, which I think is really interesting. But yeah, that overpowers pretty much anything else that's in the malt base there. I mean, you do get a little bit of the kind of smooth wheatiness, a little bit of the kind of oaty creaminess as well. But yeah, the way that everything kind of goes together in this beer is quite interesting, I have to say. So yeah, I just have to say I did not expect that from this beer, to be quite frank with you. I did not expect it to come out in that sort of way. So yeah, that's very, very interesting, definitely. But when you take the aroma in a bit more deeply, you start to get the other things out of it. But it's when you're just sniffing it kind of passively like that, that's when you get these big, almost like hot saucy type notes out of it. So yeah, the kind of, how do you say, the sort of that weird, it's really weird, that kind of chili sauce type thing. But yeah, let's focus on the other parts of the beer then. So, you know, if you take the aroma in quite deeply, you will get a little bit of a really kind of sharp, you will get a really bit of a kind of sharp, you know, you do get that kind of blackcurranty sort of thing out of this from the Brambles, but that really takes a back seat to the kind of coffee, and you do get just a little bit of a hoppy character of it, a little bit of earthiness, a wee bit of floral aromaticity, and a bit of a kind of lighter, grassy part to the beer as well. But yeah, the kind of, this beer is just really, it's really unusual in its aroma. You have to take the aroma in quite deeply to get those juicy kind of bramble blackcurranty notes out of it, but otherwise it's, I don't know what to make of that. I really don't. Take a bit of time and just ponder that over for yourself, but that is definitely one of the weirdest aromas I've ever come across in a beer. Didn't expect that. I thought it would be really like a kind of smooth, earthy coffee that you'd get, and just a little bit of a kind of, you know, just a little bit of kind of juicy, fruity character coming underneath, but it's not like that at all. It's not like that. So yeah, very interesting though, I have to say, really, really interesting. But yeah, just take a little bit of time and enjoy that aroma before you get stuck in. But I think that's a really unusual aroma. But yeah, let's have a little taste of this one then and see how we get on. So this one is the Coffee and Bramble Sour, coming in at 7.4% ABV from Vault City Brewing through in Edinburgh, although brewing their beers up in Dundee. I'm just so curious about this. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and as I say, this is a nice way to sign off on this cycle of Scottish and English beer reviews. Cheers. Oh yeah, right, yeah. Ooh, it's got a lot more fruit in it than the aroma is going to have you believe. The fruit actually has a nice kind of citricy kick to it actually. Need to make sure I don't say actually too much in this review. But yeah, that's a really, really quirky beer, definitely. So as I've always said, for me when it comes to sour beers, it's all about the transition of flavour. So these beers always come in a little bit sharp, and then they just smoothen out and juicen up the further that you go into the aftertaste. And this beer for me, the highlight of this beer is the aftertaste. It is a little bit strange on the palate actually. Pardon me. It is a little bit strange on the palate when you first take it in, but the aftertaste of this beer really is very, very nice. It is a bit strange when you've got the liquid on your tongue. And it is just a very, very quirky beer. This is going to be the thing now. Because I've sneezed once, I'm going to sneeze about 10 times, so I apologise in advance for that. But this is just a very, very quirky beer, this one, I have to say. But it does grow on me. The more and more that I drink on this one, the flavour definitely grows on me. But I can't say the aroma is growing on me. I don't like the aroma of this one, but the flavour of this beer, particularly the aftertaste, is very, very nice. So yeah, how do we do that with this beer then? Where do we start? Right, so I would say with this beer, like when you take this one in, it does have a real kind of tartness to it in the beginning. That, you know, that blackcurranty tartness there. It comes right in on the front of the tongue, comes in really sharp, and then it just juicens up and kind of rolls further back on the on that front of the tongue there, and I like that. You do get a little bit of sharpness linger in this beer the further you go into the aftertaste. The thing you're also going to notice that develops out of this beer is that it has a really nice kind of, it does have a sort of smooth, you can get the smooth kind of oats out of this one. In that middle third of your palate you can feel the sort of pale malty bready kind of thing in there, and as you go to that border region between middle third and back third of your tongue, there is a little bit of a kind of toasty, bread crusty kind of thing there. But on that back third of your palate, you get the wheat, and the wheat is giving the beer just a little bit more kind of thickness, if you like. And the coffee beans, it's kind of interesting. As I say, the thickness on the back third of the palate is a little bit like that, but then as you go into the middle third of your palate, the thickness is down here, but the coffee starts to come out in that kind of gap, if you like, and it sort of just smoothens the whole beer out in a lot of ways. So yeah, the coffee for me is really interesting in this one as well, because it's not like any of the other coffees that I've had before in beers, but I mean, I think it's my first encounter with Brazilian coffee, to be honest with you. But yeah, when you take a sip of this one, and when you put your nose in the glass, it really has a very strong, powerful, earthy note, and it is almost like a kind of hot sauce or tobacco sauce kind of thing. It's really just it's a very unusual aroma, and I have to admit, I don't think the aroma would grow on me with this one, but the beer itself is really interesting. I would love to see how this would go with different coffees right enough, but that Brazilian coffee that you get with this, it's just a really powerful, you know, it's almost like a well-fired earthiness that comes out of this, but then it's got that really unusual kind of Tabasco sort of spicy sauce kind of thing about it. So yeah, the aroma is just really weird for me, definitely. But yeah, it's a lovely, lovely beer. I mean, the coffee notes, let's focus on that coffee then. So like I said, the coffee has a quite powerful earthiness to it, and you get more and more of that earthiness coming out of the beer a little bit later on. But then the earthiness really smoothens out, and I want to say there's a wee bit of red fruitiness to that coffee as well, which I would guess is probably the reason they've chosen it for this sour actually. But the earthiness is extremely, extremely powerful in this one. It's really quirky in that sense. And the coffee, you know, the dryness of the coffee just kind of spreads forward a little bit in that middle third of your palate. But that's a really, really just very unusual beer. But it works. It really does work, this one actually. You are going to notice with this beer that you get a few kind of woody undertones developing out of it, which I think is really nice. But yeah, I think this is really interesting for sure. Just such a quirky beer, but that's the main reason we do these beer reviews, is to find weird and wonderful things like this. But yeah, you will notice that coffee really starts to dry out in the middle of your palate, and it's almost got a wee bit of a kind of ashiness that comes out of it a little bit later as well. So yeah, it's really unusual. It's a very straight shooting coffee, like I say, really strong and earthy, a little bit ashy, and then there's a wee bit of a fruity note starts to come out of it as well. But yeah, I think that covers the kind of middle part of your palate in this beer fairly extensively, to be honest with you. So yeah, on to the hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate, there is a little bit of earthiness to this beer, and the earthiness feels a little bit more powerful in this one compared to some of the other Vault Cities that I've had before. So yeah, how do we say, as you move further forward from that, the beer does develop a little bit of herbal quality. I wonder if they've used a Fugo hop in this, because even the earthiness is quite powerful, and it's got a little bit of that ashy thing. So I would not be surprised if there's a bit of English Fugo in this one. Normally with sour beers like this, they'll use lower alpha acid hops, such as, you know, Hallertau, Tittnanger from Germany, I guess, Sats from the Czech Republic would work, or, you know, even, Styrian Goldings or whatever from Slovenia. But, you know, the English hops would definitely be an option too, and there's just something tells me that there could be a bit of Fugos in this one, because it's just got a little bit of that distinctive ashy character. But yeah, as you come further forward along the sides of the palate, you do get a nice little bit of a kind of floral aromatic quality out of the beer. Then round the very front curve of the tongue, the beer is a little bit kind of lighter and grassy actually. So again, very quirky in that sense, absolutely. But yeah, let's focus on the kind of fruity side of things with this beer. Yeah, so on the fruity part of the beer, I kind of described the fruit as it when we had it in, but the thing is with this beer, in that front third of your palate where you always get the kind of more hoppy fruity elements out of it, so you can feel a sort of that coffee note just kind of underpinning, the coffee kind of dryness is just underpinning that fruity part of the beer. But like I say, when you take this one in, you get a really quite sharp you get a really quite sharp, tart hit on this one when you take it in, and then it just rolls out further back on the palate and just gives you a little bit of a kind of juiciness there. But it really is, this is definitely a slightly more puckering, if you like. It's got a little bit of a kind of puckering quality to it, this one. And as I say, the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, you will get a few sort of figgy notes out of it. You'll get a little bit of a kind of juicier black currant. But yeah, it's the brambles, the black berries all the way in this one. Absolutely. But it's a lovely beer, this one. I really like this one, and I like the way the aftertaste develops. But it's definitely one of the kind of drier and slightly spicier sours I get. I think it's spicy the right word. You get a lot of dryness out of the coffee in this one. You get a lot of bitterness out of it as well, in fairness. And yeah, so it's definitely one of the kind of more bitter and dry beers that I've had from Vault City so far, actually. I really like the aftertaste of this one. So yeah, this is just this is the strangest beer I've had from them so far. And it is one that will grow on you. What I would say to you is, if you're going to buy this one, share it with a friend and use it as a taster. Don't drink this whole bottle yourself. I mean, this is one that you need to kind of ponder over with a bit of a beer nerd friend and just think about a little bit. But yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me. It's definitely one that's grown on me. The aroma I don't like. I'll say, yeah, I don't like the aroma of this one. The aroma's a little bit off-putting, in honesty. It just has that. Some people might love it though, right enough. Remember, all of these, this whole thing is my opinion of the beer, and opinions are subjective. Beer is subjective. People like different things. But yeah, it's that kind of hot, saucy, Tabasco-y type note that it has. It just doesn't appeal to me. That the aroma of this beer just doesn't appeal to me. But the flavour actually does grow on me a little bit, actually. So yeah, this is definitely the quirkiest beer I've had from Vault City so far. It works. It does work. A coffee and bramble sour is kind of one of the last things that you'd expect to see from these guys, but it certainly does work. I really need to try one of their Imperial Stouts, because I know that Jake from Jake O'Beer said that he had one of the Imperial Stouts and said it was one of the weirdest beers he had, but this definitely has to be one of the quirkiest beers I've ever reviewed. No doubt in my mind about that. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer for me, lovely. It develops a nice kind of juiciness. So you get some figgy notes out of it later on, like I said. But yeah, it's really, really just very, very unusual, I have to say. But thumbs up to Vault City for being experimental and trying something a wee bit different. You certainly cannot fault them for that. But yeah, I think that describes the flavour profile of this beer pretty extensively. Let's focus on the mouthfeel then to round off. So this beer feels very, very light, I think. Feels like one of the kind of wetter sours I've had almost from these guys. But I mean, we always say this, the Scottish tap water, we're very, very proud of our tap water in Scotland. It's, I'm pretty sure, some of the best in the world. Very, very clean, very, very pure. So a lot of Scottish beers have this really clean, pure kind of thing in the mineral, the sort of minerally qualities with this beer. You get that out of it, definitely. It's got a really kind of clean mouthfeel, almost slightly slick actually. But yeah, the malty side of this beer, you get more and more of the kind of sweet and smooth malty side of this beer the further you go into the aftertaste, but the coffee really kind of just dries that out a little bit. It does have a good bit of dryness to it, so this is definitely one of the drier and more bitter beers that you're going to come across from Vault City Brewing. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, it's got it gives you a little bit of bitterness as well. I mean, this beer, I don't know what I would give this in terms of IBUs. I mean, it must be, 20 or 30 or something like that. But yeah, I do like how this, I do like how that side of the beer goes together as well. Like I said, Vault City, when they use hops in the beer, it just gives it a little bit more depth. But yeah, nice juicy fruitiness from the hops in the beer. I think there's English hops in this one, to be quite honest with you. I do wonder about Fugels, maybe a bit of Bramling's Cross to give it some fruitiness as well. But yeah, good bit of sharpness to it. It's got a little bit of a kind of puckering quality to it, which is what you want. But yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me, this one, the Coffee and Bramble Sour from Vault City Brewing. This is a really kind of Crazy, crazy beer, this one. Very unusual. So an interesting way to sign off from this particular cycle of Scottish and English beer reviews. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Yeah, 7.4% Bramble and coffee sour. Who would have thought that that would work? But there you go. Vault City, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely worth checking out. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. You know, you can check out all my social media, blah blah blah, but I would highly recommend that you check out this brewery. Let me know your own thoughts on the beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Vault City, and you will absolutely see these guys during my next cycle of Scottish beer reviews, which will probably come sometime in September, so you've got that to look forward to. But yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out all my social media, check out Vault City Brewing, and I'll catch you guys very soon. More Swedish reviews coming tomorrow. Slanja, skål, cheers, and see you back in Sweden.